Welcome to Talk to Go, a series that we've dubbed TAC Talks. The whole weekend is filled with on and offline presentations and somehow pivots around the notion of waiting. So without further ado, I will dive into a conversation with my next two guests, Kuiper and Marieke Stam. My name is Saskia and Stein. I'm an educator, a moderator and a curator, but basically here because I teach at the Design Academy. But it's not about me, it's about you guys.
So no more waiting.
Danny, you're a father of two. You've served in the Dutch military. You're a programmer. I've been a programmer of Dynamo, a poet, a spoken word artist, and organizer and initiator of the word podium onuitgesproken, which translates into, let's say, unsaid or unspoken. Welcome.
Thank you.
Marieke, the second guest, or first guest, let's see. Impressive track record, I must say. Writer, spoken word artist also. A poet, a singer. I would even say like an embedded poet, because you tap on multiple societal issues. And also you call yourself an activist, so I'll touch upon that. But you are actively involved as a coordinator of Kick Out Zwarte Piet Eindhoven. Yes. Welcome. We have about 20 minutes together, so there's not a lot of time. Danny, I'm going to start with you. Onuitgesproken, 3 years already. Congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
Tell us a little bit, why did this onuitgesproken, unspoken, need to, let's say, set foot in Eindhoven?
Well, I thought it was important to give young poets and maybe just lingual arts a stage that isn't so gray and dusty as most people would think. We have a lot of people in Eindhoven that are writing, that are busy with like language arts in the broadest sense of words, and no pun intended, but I think it was necessary for us as poets, activists, people who are invested in that we made it more visible for the entire city and for outside of our city, so people could find the people that were embedded in these arts to show themselves.
Yeah. And could you maybe, before we delve into what you exactly do for the community and with the people here, but where do you, let's say, historically root the spoken word?
Well, spoken word is rooted in... spoken word is a people's art. It's the voice of the people, so it's rooted in stories that people tell, in social distress, well, every story can be a spoken word story. For me personally, I go back to the punk age. I'm a punk kid, but I like punk a lot, but I couldn't get my lyrical high of it. So I found myself finding hip hop, and later on finding spoken word through a hip hop artist called Sage Francis, who worked with one of my biggest examples, Buddy Wakefield. So that's where spoken word for me came into my life.
Yeah, yeah. Do you have a similar story, or when did the word or the lyrical enter your life, and where would you, let's say, root the spoken word?
Well, I was always a hip-hop kind of girl, raised in hip-hop and R&B culture. I'm a 90s child. And I would also root it in hip-hop culture as and even going back to the 70s, like groups like The Last Poets and Gil Scott-Heron, who were already doing poetry on music, and from that on hip-hop developed, rap evolved, but also spoken word as a more free form than rap. Rap is you're more tied to the beat and to
Yeah, but you basically produce the beat also.
Yeah.
In your work. I was wondering if you could, let's say, sketch a little bit of your process. In your case, I just called you, let's say, an embedded poet, by which I mean that I was struck by the fact that you really do quite thorough research in the veins of our society, if I may call it that. And could you sketch out how is the relation between, let's say, a research phase and then the creation of a new piece?
Well, yeah, it's. I have different processes. So some pieces they come spontaneously, but they're not really spontaneously because you just take everything in during years of your life, and then at the moment something triggers you and it comes out. So I think issues that I am writing about, but I'm not only writing about issues because I'm looking for the very intimate too. So I'm looking always for a combination, for an authentic voice. But there is a piece I wrote for The White Sands, and that came after I was asked to be present at a talk of Timothy Morton at Domus Dela, and I went to the talk, but I always also listened to the podcasts and immersed myself also in there was an exhibition at MU, and there was also something in writing with it. I don't know.
A little leaflet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I studied that.
So you drew from that.
I drew from there.
Yeah.
And then I came from, because Timothy Morton is talking about as humanity, we have to hack ourselves to get out of this climate crisis.
Yeah.
And one of the things he finds very important to talk about is whiteness and the connection between whiteness and capitalism and the effect on our world, our surroundings. And so from hacking humanity, I thought I was taking steps from that. So maybe we have to hack whiteness first, because whiteness has such a big impact on humanity, on capitalism, on the climate.
Yeah. Well, we are in the middle of that is happening, I would say, on a planetary scale. We'll get to that in 1 minute, but I was also wondering, could you unpack a little bit what you believe is the force of the word, or giving a voice to somebody when you maybe, I mean, you're very actively involved in this onuitgesproken, and what inspires you? What gives you the goosebumps?
Authenticity. I think that when people speak, you should mean what you say.
Yeah.
Because if you don't believe yourself and what you say, then why should anybody in the audience believe what you are saying, or even take the time to listen?
Yeah.
I mean, I think as an artist you have somewhat of a privileged place, because people pay to listen to you, and I think you should make the utmost out of that. I think you should bring the best you can possibly bring. So probably that realness.
Realness.
Realness, yeah, but the realness and authenticity, it obviously comes from a source that is somehow maybe hard to find. I was reading and listening to both of your works, and I thought, and maybe I'm going off on a limb, but there's a certain precarity in the position you take. And then somehow synthesizing it to a so direct there's the bodily experience, and I'm saying this in full realization that we are in a society where cognition is honored and not the body. The hand is lower than the head. All these, let's say, systemic defaults, if I may call it that. But maybe back to my questions, like, can authenticity be taught? Or how important was your own story, for instance, in finding your own lyrical rhythm?
Well, I don't know. I mean, as I told earlier, I've been a punk kid and I listened to a lot of lyrics, and for me, that came from a real, like, pretty real place. I mean, it struggles. I've never been much on politics, but the hardcore punk bands I used to listen to were most heartfelt, and it was about love lost, friends lost, being there for your family and friends, and that made so much sense to me. So when I started writing, it was probably like 3 months when I got back from Afghanistan, and I think that I came to a point where I said, okay, I've listened to a lot of stories, but now I think it's my time to tell my stories. And after that, I came to a point where I thought with Onuitgesproken and Losse Eindjes, if you will, that I thought it was important for other people to have a place in Eindhoven so they could tell their stories.
Yeah.
So I think it was pretty logical how that worked, and I've met Marieke at Poetry Circle, and I found a place where there were a lot of people that had a lot of stories, and I think everything should be told.
Yeah.
As long as people want to tell it.
Yeah. Yeah. But then not always heard. But you also program. So when you make a program, what are you looking for? What is a rhythm? What are the criteria that you search for?
I want to look for the most diverse program people can see in a night. I mean, we book 6 acts usually in a night, and usually it's 2 spoken word artists, 2 musical acts, and 2 more on a literary scale. So let it be like writers who write drama books, like romance. And when I look at what I want to put on, I want to believe the speaker. That's most important. I want to see. I don't want to see anyone on stage with their phone reading up what it says on their phone. I mean, I want to believe that what you're saying, that you're actually wanting to say that, and that you practiced it. Also, I think I look to be with our stage, with our platform, to be a diverse platform. So we have all genders, all races, and not just focused on, let's say, the white majority.
Yeah, yeah.
And I have a lot to learn in that. That Marieke told me a lot of times. So we have some learning to do, but I think we're on a right path. And
yeah. What is Danny referencing to, Marieke?
Oh, we have our discussions about who to program and what not. Yeah.
What we have our discussions on what is quality
and what is relevance.
Yeah.
And the importance of representation.
Mm-hmm. Why is that so important for you?
Well, I'm missing a lot of people that are actually also close to my heart in Eindhoven that I don't see represented on stage and also not in the audience. So we have a large Moroccan community, we have a large Turkish community, and also a black community, but I don't see them enough. So, and I would like to include all of us in also in the art and theater and music scene in Eindhoven.
Yeah. And why do you think this is so hard? Can you maybe speak a little bit from the perspective also of what you learn as a coordinator in terms of why is it so hard to include intersectional thinking in society?
Yeah, it is. It's hard to say in a few sentences, I think. But I think the organizations that are working with this are still thinking in terms like diversity, which I think is a term that is maybe not the term to use anymore, because diversity is just how it is. And I think they are project minded and they are ticking off boxes, and I don't think it will ever work in that way. It has to be a real, I think, a fundamental change, that developing a real long-term relationship, and really acknowledging that in our if we miss 30% of the people living in Eindhoven in what we project in our musea or on our stages, then we lose so much.
Yes.
I think we are losing, actually, because we miss all these perspectives.
Yeah.
But now it seems like we are repeating the same thing over and over again with a few examples.
And how important is language?
The few exceptions.
Okay. The question I wanted to put out there is like, how important do you think language is as a vehicle, or spoken word more specifically?
Yeah, I think language or communication we cannot go without it. So we have to communicate in a certain way, but I think we also have to be very aware of our own vocabularies and our own concepts, that a lot of the time we are still maintaining our own concepts and wanting to put that on the other group. They still have to meet some certain standard we have somehow put up before, or we have been maintaining for all these years. So, and I don't think that will work. So we have to be, I think, white people or white organizations have to be aware of this and try to, how do you say it? Enter into that relationship and putting some of these standards aside for a moment.
Yeah. No, I was thinking while I was preparing for this talk that that language is so, as we say in proper Dutch, alledaags. It's so with us, right? It's so close. It's how we communicate. Even though I feel the Dutch we should use our whole body to communicate a bit more. But that beside the point. That I was thinking that in the way we talk about things already, there are all these boundaries. I was noticing that you have multiple platforms in which you operate, and why was it important for you to? So you have online, how does that work? How do you see the relation between all these entities?
Well, we started doing the online thing because we had to. I mean, COVID-19 has not been lying. I mean, I would love to put people in a hall, but it should be safe. And when you can't put people together in one place, you should bring that place to the people. So that's why our crew found their strength in putting our stage in the people's living rooms. Yeah.
Marieke, I noticed while I was preparing that you also are very much involved with education and young people. Mm-hmm. What is the passion with that? How does that work? Is that looking for talent or giving them a voice or all the above?
All the above. It is that in my own life it has such an impact to start writing and start I also see this in the Randstad, cities like Rotterdam and Amsterdam, what spoken word is doing for young people, all kinds of, especially bicultural young people, that they are asked to perform at all sorts of events. And
Probably
I
also
really want to bring that to young
Yeah.
people in Eindhoven.
probably also letting these kids know that their voice should be heard, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's also the thing about spoken word, and language was very important. It is not about actually using the most correct grammar. It is about being real and telling your story and performing it with your body and your voice and the exchange between you and the public.
Yeah.
And it's not about using the right grammar on paper.
Yeah.
So a lot of young people find that really liberating, that because maybe they were first afraid to write it down, and now they can just go. They also play with using different languages at the same time.
Yes.
So not breaking free of the shackles of it should be done like this or this, but you do it in your own way.
We're already heading towards the end of our 20-minute conversation, but I wanted to put the question out there, is that, let's say, I feel that there's an emphasis on the voice and the body when I look at things like X Factor, or I'm talking mainstream media.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make you hopeful that there's a place where people can voice themselves?
On a small scale, yes. I am not looking so much at X Factor and that kind of stuff, because it's still like a meat market, and I think it's giving people hope to be something really big, but it doesn't matter how big you are, as long as you believe in the thing you do and make it most real.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's stories want to be heard, but aim for the stars, but don't get your expectations up high to the stars.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, but also this idea of like performance art is at this moment merging. So I'm somehow looking, is there something like a reappreciation for the body, for the physical encounter? Okay, due to pandemic, you hosted a marvelous Insta interview series. You've made the best of the pandemic, but nevertheless, this being together, the bodily experience seems to me have a very important function.
Yeah, it does, but that's also strange. Actually, maybe that's something we lost in history, because poets always, for ages, used to be actually spoken word artists. They used to only perform their words. They didn't write them down.
Yeah.
But I think it's the beginning of the 20th century that we thought it is only serious poetry if we have it written in books. But it never was before, so why?
So basically you're saying we're returning to the source of spoken
maybe
word.
we are.
Beautiful. Yeah, yeah. As a last question, will you be performing here during Talk to Go?
I'm not. She is.
Yeah. I've put I made 2 video clips with a friend of mine of 10 minutes.
Fantastic.
But it wasn't a really traditional spoken word performance.
And would you be willing to give a traditional spoken word performance?
I would.
Maybe finalize with that?
I'm not really ready though, but I will it will be just reading. So I didn't really.
Well, Danny just said
rehearse.
he doesn't like it when it's reading, but I'm just going to be in for it.
Oh no, I'm okay with reading, but not from your phone.
Okay.
And I'm going to read from my phone now, because but that's usually I don't, but it has been crazy these last weeks.
Well, I appreciate it at least.
I do too, though.
Okay.
Let that be said.
Well, okay. When I'm in the shower, water flows towards the drain over a white body, just like the people posing on the family pictures next to the television. And when I'm at that event, talking to the guy who just interrupted a black woman by saying she ought better talk about class differences instead of racism, I move way too fast from thinking, what an asshole, to feeling quite comfortable, because when I sit beside him and we talk about our pets and health issues, he reminds me of my little brother, and stuffing ourselves with potato chips on New Year's Eve, and my favorite cousin, and laughing our asses off, and the uncle who gave me an allowance without my parents knowing, and my father who carried me home on his shoulders when I was too tired to walk. I have a gift, but I'm scared to talk about it. I see white people. First, I didn't saw them myself either. First, I didn't see myself either. I have a gift, but I'm scared to talk about it as a white person to white people. I see white people. First, I didn't saw them myself either. First, I didn't see myself either. I see white people. Behind the lectern and in the audience, at Harrods and at the neighborhood bingo at the Jeu de Boule field, and on stage at the annual dance event to celebrate the king in the city center. I see white people, in villages and city districts with owner-occupied houses, on the camping in the south of France and in the all-inclusive in Benidorm. I see white people at universities and in the boardrooms of companies, in the army, at the firefighters and with the police. I see white people coming to operate on me. I see white people working at housing associations, energy companies and in health insurance. I see white people collecting debts and taxes. I see white people in local councils and in government. I see white people on talk shows, philosophizing about other people's experiences. I see white people adopting children from so-called poor countries. I see white people protesting, building towers of fire on the beach, throwing firework bombs on the street, and in tractors causing traffic jams on the highway. I see white people suing, defending and sentencing to prison and to psychiatric treatment. I see white people hiring white people. I see white people granting white people subsidies. I see white people using pictures of black people to disguise. I don't see white people charging themselves for this. Because they only want to send their children to music lessons and good schools, pay for their cars, holidays and yoga lessons, and in addition they donate to charity somewhere in. I see white people saying they are colorblind and rather talk about cultural or ethnic minorities or marginalized groups or people with a non-Dutch background. To say afterwards that they don't care whether somebody is blue or purple, but there are no people who are blue or purple. White people rather call themselves people. After all, they are going to find a cure for cancer and save the world from climate change.
Thank you for sharing your gift with us, Marieke, Stam. And good luck with your career. And good luck with Onuitgesproken also to you, Danny Kuiper. Short but sweet.